the biblical world.
Welcome to our segment where we look at insights into the biblical world. This segment asks, where did false gods originate in the Old Testament? Let's review how God worked with humanity in the beginning. Now remember, I am a young earth guy, and I know that one of the most divisive topics in the creation evolution argument is the age of the earth, and the idea that creation took place around 6,000 years ago is routinely ridiculed in today's culture by non-Christians and also by many Christians, and that's okay. I'll stand by 6,000 years. I'm okay with that. And so here's biblical history. God created Adam and Eve around 4,000 BC. They disobeyed and God exiles them from the garden. The flood happened around 1,650 years later. However, God said in Genesis 9:11 that He would not destroy the world again with a flood. So sadly, approximately 100 years later, the Tower of Babel happened. The narrative describes an ambitious community that pits itself against God. They desire to create a city that will serve as both the geographic center of the planet and a ladder. They create this ladder to the heavens. And so God, who Scripture said is coming down to look into things, is not at all terrified at them, but the rise of a unified godless society bothers Him. And so God distorts these people's language to make it impossible for them to cooperate on this project. And that's why it's called the Tower of Babel, and they are dispersed geographically, leaving the tower only partially constructed. But God, He's frustrated with these people. And so part of Deuteronomy chapter 32 reflects back to the Tower of Babel and or that incident. And this incident, the earth is divided into nations, and that is described in Genesis chapter 10. And so Deuteronomy chapter 32 reads this way. It says, when the Most High assigned lands to the nations, when He divided up the human race, He established the boundaries of the peoples according to the number in His heavenly court. Now that's important there. The heavenly court, God assigns the world's nations to His heavenly court. Some Bible translations call them the sons of God. Now, we would better know them as angels. That's the terminology that we would use. And so then God it's just kind of cool. God starts a new nation through a man named Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, which then becomes the Israelites. And the Israelites is who God later moves to the promised land, which we would call Israel, right? And so God goes on with Abraham and this future nation, the Israelites, in chapter 12, but He leaves the sons of God, the heavenly court, or the angels in charge of all these other nations. And this is where history goes bad again. The people of these nations start worshiping these angels. That is where these false gods originated, right? So here is the Old Testament's narrative in a nutshell. Israel and their gods are pitted, Israel and their God are pitted against other countries and their gods, these now fallen angels who enjoy being worshiped. These sons of gods who ruled over other nations were real entities. Therefore, the Israelites had to deal with spiritual conflict every day. Deuteronomy 32:15 through 17 immediately following the discussion of how God divided the nations and assigned them to lesser gods, has this very depressing passage. It says this, "But Israel soon became fat and unruly. The people grew heavy, plump, and stuffed. Then they abandoned the God who had made them. They made light of the rock of their salvation. They stirred up his jealousy by worshiping foreign gods. They provoked his fury with detestable deeds. They offered sacrifices to demons, which are not God, to gods they had not known before, to new gods only recently arrived, to gods their ancestors had never feared." Verse 17 informs us that Israel succumbed to idolatry. Israelites worshiped the gods of other nations despite repeated warnings. Take note that demons are the term used to describe these beings. The gods of other nations are actually spiritual beings antagonistic to God and his people. They are not only idols. Interesting, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 19 through 22, Paul refers to consuming food sacrificed to idols by quoting Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 17. Paul does not limit his warning to the word idols. Demons, he continues, are spiritual beings that exist behind and beyond idols. The people of the Bible believed in unseen spiritual battle. We must understand that we are also involved in unseen spiritual warfare. Please remember that we believe the Bible helps us understand God and what he wants from us. I hope the more you read the Bible, the more you learn to trust it. And we'll see you next time at Insights to the Biblical World.
Insight to a biblical